Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
For a walk. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you. Good.
Six.
Is it? I don't know if I can see you.
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you. Good.
Why is it all repeating?
Everybody YouTube and
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, we're good.
It's gonna be a long meeting. Long meeting.
Yeah.
Long meeting.
Call to order. So moved by Alan, seconded by Dave, that this meeting opened at 6 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Okay, adoption of the agenda, moved by Dave, seconded by Josh, that the agenda for the Emergency Services Committee meeting for October 21st, 2024 be approved as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Okay, disclosure of pecuniary interests. Hearing none. Adoption of the previous minutes. So moved by Josh, seconded by Dave, that the minutes of the Emergency Services Committee meeting held on September 16th, 2024 be adopted as circulated. Carried. And then we're at presentations and delegations none. So staff reports. So we will have the acting fire chief regarding recent call report.
So in the past month, I'd say we have had our complement is still sitting at 18 operational volunteer members right now. We've got 1 probationary guy still. We responded to 3 calls for service, which is a decrease from 2 last year. 1 medical call September 20th, about 6:30 at night. 5 volunteers responded with a 2-hour duration on that call. 1 medical call on September 27th at 4:16 p.m. 3 volunteers responded, again, another 2-hour duration. And we had 1 motor vehicle collision, October 13th at 2:50. We had 5 responders, lasted about 3.5 hours. We're sitting at 52 calls for service year to date. Which is good, not too bad. And training rolls on. This month we've had 1 training night, 1 work night, and a public event with our open house. We ran a fire prevention week. We had an open house. Had all our gear out. We had firefighters ready to answer any questions. We had lots of great brochures and information for the public to have. It went really well. We didn't get quite the response we were hoping for, but it was still a good night, and everybody was ready to answer the public's questions, and we had lots of information for them, as well as personal protective equipment. So we do SCBA checks every week, and we take a certain amount of groups. So this group on the 1 training night, because it was a small training night, we didn't have a lot of people show up. So we did multiple different things. SCBA checks, which includes gearing up and gearing down on the BAs. It's something we like to drill. That's one of the things that just never goes away. We had an opportunity to do some DZ apparatus driver training. One of our firefighters is getting prepared to do the D class portion of the DZ. He's already graduated the Z portion through Canada College. So we're getting some more hours under his belt for learning, so we don't set them up for failure. So the other portion was ropes and knots. Ropes and knots, big portion of firefighting is ropes and knots. When we climb ladders and we need tools, we throw ropes down and get ropes. It's a big deal. Hose deployment, re-racking hoses on the trucks. And then for one of the work nights, we did a big hall cleanup in preparation for our fire prevention week and our open house. That went really well. We had good people show up. We got some future training, some special training for myself, the fire chief, on October 26th, this Saturday. I'm on an 8-hour course for Resilient Minds. Resilient Minds is a course that's been put together by the fire service and other emergency services. It's going to teach me how to handle firefighters in distress with mental distress if they had a bad call or whatnot. It's gonna better prepare me to understand how to mitigate and help the firefighters. So I'm looking forward to it. It's got really good reviews. It's a free course put on by the Ontario Mental Health Association.
Is it online?
It is online,
Okay.
it's a webinar.
Mm.
So it should be good. We also had one firefighter successfully complete Fire Smart level 1, and he is rolling into the level 2. And he's also the same firefighter that has already done his IMS 100. He wanted more training, I
We
took
gotta
more
keep
training
it.
out of him,
Nice,
and
nice.
he was hungry. It was awesome.
Yeah. Did you
Uh,
like it?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. He said it was pretty informative. A lot of things.
It's
It
it's
applies.
a process and a plan, and I think once you get into IMS, it's, a lot of things make sense.
Yeah.
It just all falls into place.
So hopefully we'll build enough for 100 that we can run our own.
Yeah,
200.
yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but Alan just completed 300 last
Mm.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It-
he did a
it's
really
like a
good
drone.
exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Where was that?
Mm.
Who did the course?
Ian Walsh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The field officers, not the field officers.
Well, there was field officers, but it was primarily a North Bay event. They're solving some internal issues
Ah.
between fire EMS and police.
Yeah, medics, yeah.
So IMS 300 was a lot of the solution, so they
Mhm.
got everybody in the room and we all got 300 and I somehow got invited.
Nice.
I think the big part of that, big win for Bonneville is that Alan was part of the exercise, which was more of the exercise with all the service providers, all the
Yeah.
emergency service providers, so that will help train for our exercise that we need to do.
It was great networking. We had to meet all the players in North Bay and surrounding areas. And it was an excellent course too. It was very well put on. We had 2 days of training and then the third day was the exercise. And we managed not to burn down North Bay.
Did they do it, they did an exercise site specific for North Bay?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we all had colored vests on, like it
Yeah,
was, and we were in
yeah.
a separate room and they briefed one group and then the first group had to debrief the second group. So it was real application of what we learned in the course.
What was the emergency?
There was a train wreck on down by the Ontario Northland,
Dangerous goods?
dangerous goods, flammables.
Yeah, yeah, excellent.
We had a toxic plume, we had evacuation.
Yes. So we turned full.
Miraculously got better, but somehow we did bring one.
So they activated the EOC and there was a site component as well?
Yes, and it was more about the incident command than it was
Yeah.
the EOC, so it was the command group and their team.
Yeah.
So the EOC was activated as well, and it was like we interacted with them on, so they were over there on a basis, but it was about what we were doing, boots on the ground, interaction between the different agencies, planning, logistics, all that good stuff.
Yeah. You're gonna love it, Dave. Once you get immersed in this, it just, you're gonna love it.
Part of the plan, like I've been putting in the time now to dive into the 100 and so it's, yeah. Saw it after the Yeah. So, yes, carrying on, I'm just kind of dancing around in this agenda, but again, talking about the open house, it was good. But September 23rd, we did a big fire prevention act with Ecole L'Oreal. We did a mock fire drill and it was great. Actually, Josh helped take it with another one of the firefighters. Yeah, it was really good. It went really well.
Yep, everything went well. We went through, so the new principal there. We kind of walked the school first. She had a few questions. We went through a few things. And I know the principal, so it made it a little bit easier. To just chat and what do we need, where do they need to be? They had some questions on some of their plans. She couldn't find their original plan that Dave actually had, so it's made its way back to her. So that she can build off of that, and they'll come with a newer updated one. She's supposed to come back.
It was supposed to send me that this last week, actually.
Yep.
To breathe.
And from there, we went through their alarm system, kind of gave them an overview, because there's a new janitor there as well. And we did fire drill and everything went smooth. They were really quick. They went to their required places and it was good.
Can I just go back to the open house? Yes. You said it wasn't very well attended, but how many people would you say came?
About a half dozen.
Be good to keep track of what that is for our KPIs, our performance indicators year over year, and how many more people you're reaching in all of these events.
And again, we can help with social media, right? It's gotta be, we'll push it everybody, right? So if we
I
can
had a
get the.
couple posts out that pushed it and then
Yeah.
jumped on all the other pages.
Yeah, if we
but,
can jump on all the pages
Yeah.
and, yeah, and if we can get it out, like way ahead of time too. Was it on our webpage?
I believe we did share some stuff.
Okay, good, yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it'll get better, I think,
Yeah.
so.
And we're still rolling on with our smoke alarm program. Actually, tonight is one of our smoke alarm nights, so we'll be going door to door to put an advertisement up for that too, just alerting the citizens that firefighters are coming around. We're not here to do anything, we're just here to help you educate on your smoke alarms, your carbon monoxide alarms, to see if they're up to date. If not, we can maybe help you out if required, or maybe we'll come back again. We'll schedule a revisit to make sure they get the compliancy that we're all looking for. But yes, tonight is one of our smoke alarm.
I think just getting the word out there that they actually do save lives, right? It's proven that they save lives, so it really is about the safety
Yeah.
and protection.
We're hoping as we move forward with this that the public is gonna feel more comfortable seeing the firefighters and be more welcoming. We haven't had a good response in the past with the door-to-door stuff, but we're coming at it with a different approach.
Nobody really likes to get the knock on the door from somebody in a uniform to say, I'm here to make sure you're following the rules. But if something ever happened, they'll be thankful that somebody
Yes.
did do that,
Yes,
but
yes.
it's. Yeah, it's just, it was never gonna happen to me, but then it does.
We did a few last year.
Yeah.
It was just myself and one other firefighter, and we did kind of the beginning section of Young Street. From Trunk up, we made it to the school just in that area, and it was fairly well received. I know you've in the past had issues with. Not, but that's kind of a, I don't know. Newer spot, newer side of town, so newer people in the area, so it was a little more received. This year we've kind of pushed the core hamlet of Bonfield, so we've got a few different teams set up to go through the center of town, so we'll see how that goes and we'll go from there as to where we push next.
Maybe,
It's a very important activity.
Yeah.
for us to have.
I mean, I think we need to think of creative ways of reaching people too, right? So definitely social media. Maybe next year when you do your open house, we have some kind of a draw where you can win, like a fire extinguisher or a,
Fire prevention package.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, with maybe even a carbon monoxide detector or something, so if we kind of, yeah, we put it that way, something for your car, we can get together and have a whole program just to give some incentive for people. Cause it is very important.
It is. Okay, rolling on. September 25th. Josh and I and one other firefighter, who's also very keen on wanting to grow, and we attended a mutual aid meeting that was held in Powassan. They seem to be going to Powassan a lot. They had a beautiful fire hall. It's really nice out there. They had two guest speakers, the OFM, our fire service advisor, Brian Mackey. We've met Brian before. We've met Brian as well. He spoke on the community risk assessment dashboard that the OFM was putting on. It was glitchy. It's behind the times. The data that they have loaded into the system right now is from 2019. Doesn't really reflect on what's happening right now. They're hoping that they will have the system up and running, but they say by mid next year that it should be up more active. But it's a pretty basic sort of dashboard. It's,
Do we have access to this?
yeah, it's open to the public. It's kind of like a GIS platform where you can go on and you can search the entire province and localize different areas, and they can say where the hotspots are and where not the hotspots are.
Mhm.
So it was good. It was kind of thrown at Brian as well, so he didn't have all the answers, but it was still a good information session that we had, that we got to sit with the other chiefs. And Tim Corbelli also spoke from Spectrum Communications, we spoke with him before. There is a technical support repair maintenance agreement going out now. I did include it in the package. This used to be a service that was included with our rental, and now it's going to be a service that is terminated. This is for after hours call. Throughout my years here, I think we've only ever had to call for after hours once for a down repeater. Compared to the cost that program is going to be running,
Is this like a supplementary thing? Is this supplementary to our system?
yes, that is. So we rent the repeaters from Spectrum.
Hmm,
They've been maintaining them, and if we have an issue, it goes down there to fix it.
right,
The after hours technical support used to be available with the rental of our,
I see,
and now as of January, they're going to be changing that.
yeah, so we should decide whether we want to do this
Yeah.
or not, yeah. Oh, do we have other options or?
I think more will come out from some of the discussions
Okay.
about the grant too, right?
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
but yeah, we can talk. So for community involvement, we have the Halloween parade on Saturday.
Mhm.
I definitely have one fire truck that's gonna be in it staffed. Probably gonna have 2 fire trucks in there staffed. We'll get it decorated, we'll go wherever
Okay.
wants to go in the lineup, probably in the front. Of course, and October 31st, we are hosting a haunted Halloween firehouse. So it's a safe place for people that don't necessarily want to leave the town. We're still gonna be there operating. We're still gonna run a regular training night on the Monday, but. We had volunteers that come up on the 31st to do. The haunted firehouse. So
That's great.
That's good. We always have really good turnout on the haunted firehouse.
Yeah.
Like, kids love it. We put on a good show. And while we have the adults in the corner waiting for them to come out, we kind of give them some information if they want information. So it also works well with the fire prevention.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So this information, Dave, the calls and stuff. I mean, you probably spent time extricating that from something. Is there not a way to just pull that out of the call in a chart form or? No?
No.
Okay.
Potentially in the future there will be, and it's part of the fire chiefs. The review of what we're trying to do.
Okay, I just
and-
see this as very time consuming for you.
Yeah,
And,
but it's okay, it's what we gotta do.
Yeah.
That goes hand in hand with the free. We have
Fire
free,
queue?
we're in fire queue right now, we have the active free trial.
Okay.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh knows a lot more about the program, he got a whole thing from Mattawa.
Do they have fire queue?
Yes,
They do.
Okay, and they love it?
from what I get, yeah, that's,
Okay,
they
that
come,
sounds good.
they
to
came
go look at.
from
It is,
no automated system, but it was just the text from dispatch and the page out via pager radio. And they moved to this, like our who's responding is, right? This is
Right.
just a sister to their normal system, so they seem to like it. There's lots of things.
Just
in
have to
and
look
about
at
it.
price,
it's lots of, it has a lot of features, so the price point is pretty much on par with who's responding. But it seems so far, it seems to be far more capable of who's responding in the terms of for fire hall organization for us. And like I was just saying, I think there is a way that we can put our incidents into a graph.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
because that would
it-
just be so easy
we
to
can-
extra table, yeah.
Can export just the table of these calls.
Yeah.
All you do is go in and you block it down and you can go to MVCs in the time span of the
Right,
last month.
right, right.
House fire, structure fires in the
Yeah.
last, or just the complete overview of any event that's come through in the last month and print that out as date, time,
Yeah,
basically what you have there, but just all out at once.
So you're gonna learn a lot about writing reports to council then, eh, Dave? This is awesome.
We're hoping before our who's responding is up for renewal, that we're gonna have a recommendation for council to either stick with who's responding or go with the fire queue ways.
When is who's responding up for renewal?
December 31st.
And if you're canceling, you have to give notice.
That's
Is it
something I
automatically?
still have to look into. I'm gonna talk to Michael about that.
I just know from one software that we tried to change here in the municipal office, you had to give a whole year's notice. Once you're signed up, so you just gotta make sure that, because we still
Yep.
had to use that system for this year, even though we didn't want to.
Yes, that's.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's an action.
And then I'd love to see a demo,
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah, I'd
For sure.
like to see what you have in background to compare it to the other systems that we're using and how we can enter.
We have who's responding doesn't give us any feedback really. Fire queue. Can I go into it a bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so fire queue. As soon as the pager goes off, it automatically starts a report. As the guys click in responding, it automatically puts them into this instant report. It timestamps everything, so we get on scene. Open up the app, on scene, hit on scene, now it's timestamped, who was on scene, which truck, whichever way it goes. As we're doing things, so our incident command, they pull it up on their phone and they can hit watering agent being applied, so we're adding water. More resources called, so these are all buttons we add within the app, and you just keep timestamping. When you
It
get,
records when you leave as well. right?
it records when you leave. So then when the event's finished, returning to the station and then back in service. And when you print out the report, all of these timestamps are stamped out right in the report.
It will be a big benefit for me when I gotta do my standard insert reports for the OFM every month.
Yes.
That sometimes the time they're a little, did you write down the time when you put water on? No, I forgot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
This is something you just go to school.
Yeah.
Go.
So
Or the
in
instant commander
So
would
it's
be.
still, it'll be as good as the data input from the.
exactly.
Yes.
Right, so, and then everyone will have to learn to, when you're leaving the scene.
Yeah.
So that's, as of right now, using the who's responding, their guys are getting fairly good with making sure that they punch in that they're responding. On top of this with the fire queue, they send out a text beside dispatches. They can do a text, a phone call, and email. You can have all three of those sent out to you. And within that text, you have the option to text yes, no, hold. And as soon as you text back yes, it automatically puts you into the app that you're responding. So you don't even have to open the app. It's just as simple as yes. And oh, hey, look, I've got this many people responding. So then it'll be on more of our instant command to make sure that he's got a tablet in front of him and doing these things as they're happening, right? So, we haven't got into an actual report from it yet, but the one call we had, I did go in just as a trial and set up a report as if we did get called out. I do have it here, if you guys want to see it.
We'll have a look at it.
It just has, we'll have to keep it down because it does have personal information.
Yeah,
So, where did I have that, Dave? Right here. So that's what the report looks like as it comes through.
So we have some time sensitive action items that we're gonna have to bring flag because it's October. And
Yes.
this expires in December. We are gonna have to make some decisions and figure out
Yeah.
our budget and all,
Yeah.
right? So
And price wise, I did have a chat with fire queue representative. The low end is $950 roughly a year. The high end, we're looking at about $1,200. I explained our situation. We want 30 responders. With a call volume of 60 to 70 calls a year. That put us about $1,050 a year. The 1,200 is if we're pushing 100 calls and alerts up to like 100 people. Now they have to put together a 1-800 number because of mass text regulations
Yeah.
through the province. So that's when the price jumps high. Otherwise, we kind of fall right in the middle of what we're looking for with the additional add-ons, with the paging queue.
And who administers it? So are you the one that updates the phone numbers?
Yes.
and okay. Yeah, I worked with similar systems, where we did mass,
Yep.
call-outs,
Yeah.
so. With
So-
hundreds of people, yeah.
So that's all the same,
Yeah.
like I said, there'd be no benchmarks on that one, just because I did do it afterwards.
Yeah.
So as soon as we close the event, you hit save draft on the report. And then when you get back to the hall, you bring it up on the computer and then you start piecing in whatever information is missing.
Nice. This might help with our CRA as well, right? So like a really quick way to.
It's
to
easier to get
Yeah,
the
to
data
get our
out of
information.
our reports.
Yeah,
So again, it's all
It's very
what
quick.
we put into it, right?
And you can extract that report.
That is extracted.
this is it.
Okay.
So I can take that and have it emailed to.
Or save to the GIS.
Or
system
save
in
to
a
the system.
confidential portal,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the CRA.
Yep.
CRA.
So
you
there's-
can just use.
There's that aspect to it, within. Itself, the program. We actually have a training component to it, so when we have our training nights, we put our training in there as well. And who was at that training event, and it logs it to their file.
Oh.
So however many hours they've done for training, however many hours they've done for calls, you can pull up one person's report. And it gives a complete history of where they stand for training hours, where they stand for calls that they've made. So we can kind of see where everybody's standing, and we can put in their records as well, so that if you had to access it, you can sign into the FireQ program and pull up Dave Vieira. And here's what Dave has. So it's a little more record keeping as well. There's all in one place. It's simple. There's a little bit
Sounds
to
like
it.
a really good system.
Yeah.
In the near future, within beginning 2025, they're looking at integrating truck inspections right into the program. Right now, we can use a side program through Google Docs, and we build the document, we build the checklist, and through FireQ, the guys can go in, pull up the checklist, do the checklist, but it's through Google Docs on the side.
Yeah.
Within the near future, for additional $50 a year or something, it's built right into the program, and it attaches right to the truck file. So we keep track of all the truck maintenance in there as well. All the maintenance logs can be put in. If the truck went for brakes, if the truck went for an oil change, that's all put in there. So we kind of see what's happening with their vehicles as well.
It's very live, as well as if a truck goes out of service during the week. We don't have to send out a message to everybody, say, you click out of service, and then everybody gets an alert on their phone saying that 1.5 is out of service.
Sounds like it's gonna save a lot of time.
It will.
A lot of
Yeah.
paperwork.
Sounds very good.
Yes.
I'm impressed by it so far. I'm just kind of leery of like, why isn't everybody else doing this?
Well, again, it's work for you though, right?
Yes.
Cause
Yeah.
you've gotta, like, this was
Your
a,
data entry.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's your data entry, so it's, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think once you start developing good habits and people, it's just rote then, people know automatically, I gotta sign in, I gotta sign out, oh, start putting water, like,
Yeah.
it'll just become automatic and
Yeah.
that's, so that's good, that is good. But again, time sensitive, so we gotta get on that.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. Just, the training, I just have, so you've outlined the training here, but then, that beautiful spreadsheet is gonna be updated with everyone who's been trained, so that's now a living document.
That's a living document
Okay.
that will be updated continuously.
Yes.
So I haven't had a chance because I've been on vacation again.
Wow, you've got a lot of vacation.
I do. I still have lots more I have to burn. So that IMS 100 and the FireSmart, the FireSmart will be added into that document. And for this firefighter that has completed those two things, it'll now become green.
And I had a question about the DZ training. So that costs us money, right, to train? And so what happens if they don't pass? Okay.
We retrain and send them.
Again? Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
for this, in this example, like he's already passed his ed. We've
right,
already invested his ed endorsement.
Right,
If he
right.
doesn't pass the D, we'll prep him again and
Okay.
send him again.
okay.
And
And then at one point, do you say a DZ is just not for you?
yeah. Take that as a,
That happened,
a-
I'm sure that's happened, right?
so far, no, everybody who wants to drive the fire trucks. They know what they're getting into and they're normally already good drivers going into it. They already have truck experience, they already have trailer experience, so. That hasn't been an issue where,
So no one has ever failed a DZ?
oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
we've
Oh,
had
okay, yeah,
drivers. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay,
And that is completely, sometimes you're gonna get a good examiner, sometimes you're gonna get a not so good examiner. And they will nitpick you on your walk around for things that you wouldn't even think, and then you're like, well, that's two, you're done. So
okay,
we found it's very subjective as to pass or fail as to who you're getting as an examiner. We did one last year, and he did fail one. We wrote it and
yeah,
it was successful.
okay. Any questions, any other questions? No?
No,
Okay.
emailed everything?
Steve, do you have any questions or?
No questions. Just, when we were talking about, that the trucks are all serviced and everything, I know that there were some, issues with some of that stuff, a little while ago, so I'm guessing that that's all caught up now, that they're all been safety, that they're
They're all-
all,
Yeah, they've all been,
everything is finished.
everything is finished, they're all safeties and stickered and
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
it's here for the drive on.
Smaller shop is on drive on, like they have to be, yeah. Yeah, so I'm sure it'll just, we can just go through Wayne and go through that,
Yeah.
so let's coordinate with Alex.
That's
We're,
good.
township's already on drive on.
That's good.
Okay, we'll move on then to item 7. Receive and review update on the fire chief's plan provided by the acting fire chief, so.
Kind of a lot of it was already there in the report. I would go on to the pre-service, that's one of the other things that we're working on right now is the pre-service program. Part of my recruitment and retention plan is to get the pre-service force built.
Right.
We have a rough plan going forward if we do get any new recruits coming in. And that basically entails, we give them a home package, they go home, they study the package, they come back. We do a quick evolution and see where they're at. If they pass, we put them on calls right away. Like I said, that's gonna keep the retention up.
Right,
It keeps their interest high now that they're being an active member of the fire department as opposed to sitting on the shelf for 6 months, coming to training nights every night. Where's this going? Where's this
Right,
leading?
right. And we can just do that. We don't need approval from anyone. We can
No,
just develop
yeah.
that and it's just our
Definitely.
own.
We should have approval from council so that it's endorsed through council, so build a plan, like you're saying, build that plan, get that plan, it's like any policy that we have for the municipality. Adopted by council, and then that's our plan, so if anything ever happens, we say, no, this is the
This is what we
pre-service
do.
plan. This is how we do the recruitment, this is what it is, so, you know, if somebody does get hurt, here's,
Yeah,
we follow
Yeah,
these steps.
exactly. So
Okay.
it's got to, yeah,
And on that note, I did upload a current up-to-date roster. I don't know if you got that message or not on Teams.
I think just saw.
Okay.
Yeah,
I did not, I didn't
Yes.
get a notification on that, but perfect.
yeah. Everybody's there. Most
Yeah.
of the information there, addresses, phone number,
Perfect.
email, contact information, names. There's still some few things I gotta pop in there. But for the most part, you have a
Mhm.
complete active roster.
Excellent.
Won't include the probationary.
so updated roster on Teams.
Teams.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's on Teams. They put a message out, I guess.
Excellent.
Okay, and I would imagine that then are we scheduling a meeting just with fire and us to update or
We were looking at November 4th
November
for
4th?
that
Okay.
meeting, and then hunting season.
Um,
On vacation again?
I know in Northern Ontario, the world stops for hunting season. We got a week in Bruce and then, yeah,
So we'll just say that it's TBD, but we'll get together, figure out what date is good for fire to meet so that we can get a progress report and then
Think we
see
did
what you
the
need,
date.
right?
We could-
Steve had his hand.
Oh, sorry, Steve.
I think the next meeting too is a different officer coming as well, right? Based on our communications plan?
Mhm.
A training officer or the fire prevention officer, right?
Correct.
Or any others.
Or if, I believe it says any.
Any
officer.
officer, yeah,
And Josh is
yeah.
still the training
Yes,
officer,
still.
so,
Training,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, with the
So,
report.
yeah.
Again, just
want
to get
more
them
officers.
familiar and reporting, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay,
And to be before, yes.
Yes,
Where-
that
where we
was
were-
tentative
Yeah,
was for the
right
4th at 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the 21st at 6 for council.
Yes, that may change.
Okay.
Tomorrow night, we're asking them to
Yeah.
move that meeting to the 19th,
Okay.
so we'll update you.
that's six, that's right.
Mhm.
Yes, and so just sorry about the confusion about the reporting. Yes, for fire services, for this meeting, it's the Friday that your report has to be in so that Santana can post it with the agenda. I thought you were asking about council. And because council is tomorrow, you don't come to council tomorrow because the meeting is the night before.
Yeah.
So it's when we can post the information.
We need to have the minutes done for.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Also, it doesn't have to be as in-depth as what you give us here tonight.
For
Your
council.
for council, your report for council, the information can be the same, but when you're presenting, it can just be high level things because the report is already there. So you don't have to go into as detailed. You have to read the whole report. Okay. We can practice that. I don't mind doing that with you.
Sure. That's
Okay.
excellent.
Okay. Okay. The 2015 establishing bylaw.
The DNR bylaw. What I've got so far here, I don't want this to go yet.
No.
I'm not ready for this to be submitted to council or recommendations. We're gonna just
Yeah.
get you chit chat about that for a while.
Yep.
But I got a pretty good foothold on it right now, but I'm still, I wanna add a few more appendixes. More so pertaining to a fire prevention program. I wanna put that in our UNR bylaw. As well as one pertaining to driveways, oddly enough, we do run into issues with driveways, and I want to put that in our establishing bylaw that. If we roll into a scene and the driveway is in not a good shape, like it's going to affect. The way we fight fires, and the public should be known about that, so.
Are you looking at other people's?
Yeah, I've been
notes?
bouncing
Yeah,
around
that's a good-
within
yeah,
our areas to
excellent,
get
yeah,
a
good
better
place to
idea of
start.
how to write this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so that's where I'm going with this so far.
Okay,
But when I get closer to the final draft, I want to sit down with you.
and what is the deadline for this?
I want,
Well, maybe a little bit of background on this. Right now, our current one is 1995.
Ooh.
So it's 30 years old,
Yeah.
almost 30 years old. The township did work on this that I submitted in 2015, but it never got adopted. So
Okay.
between 2015 and 2017, there was work on updating the bylaw, but never finalized. So I sent that to you in Word so
Yeah.
that you can kind of view some of
You
that.
can do
Yeah.
track changes in Word too. So track changes, what it will do is I can show you, it will allow you to make changes without deleting the other stuff so that we know what you've said and what said before. I can show you how to do
I've
that.
sent you a few documents
Yeah.
for track changes.
track
it is, I
changes, yeah,
found that
it's
very
very-
intriguing.
Yeah, it's
There's
very
a
handy,
bubble
it's
here.
very
Yes.
handy. And if there's a document that we're all working on and we're all making changes,
Yeah.
it'll flag who made the change,
Yeah.
so. And then you can accept the change or not accept the change, so.
Yeah, and we can do that in Teams too.
Yeah.
That's the toilet Teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of thought the bylaw, when we sit down to discuss, it could be in a number of different chunks. Like the first two, like definitions and establishing the organization. That's like a chunk. Let's talk about that, right? And then let's talk about our appointment of the officers and members. How does that happen when, you know, the probationary, what are the expectations of them? And then the roles and responsibilities of all of the categories, like the chief, the deputy, all the officers, and then the firefighters themselves, and the captains, and then just the general responsibilities of the fire department, and then that community risk assessment, like the goals and objectives.
Mhm.
The goals and objectives are set by the community risk assessment, because that's what we need to make sure we're responding.
Working towards.
What does our community need?
Exactly.
Yeah, and how that all integrates into one, so if you have a draft, the earlier you send it to me, the better. it's almost 30 years old, maybe we can get this done before it's like 31.
Yeah.
So I think if we need to set a date, because if we don't set a hard date, it just kind of goes on,
Yeah.
so,
Let's say can we say by the end of February? Like,
Yeah.
this is a lengthy
Yeah,
project. That'll come back and forth to the committee, and we wanna make sure that we're kind of giving, so the end of
so
February.
end of February, so February 20, okay. Yeah,
Which
that seems
That
reasonable,
gets
that's
into my
reasonable.
year end and my budgeting, so
Mhm.
Hey,
the
Yeah.
sooner the better.
Yeah.
When you need me to review.
Okay, excellent. And,
Is there any comments that anyone has about the bylaw that was kind of submitted in? Any questions, just to kind of get our brain thinking about what goes into that, or?
no, I'm looking forward to sitting down and going over it,
Okay.
because I think that will, I think we're gonna have some good discussion around that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Wildland Fire Grant, CNC and.
So I'm not sure the Wildlife Fire Grant, but there's also the CEPP grant, which is emergency management. I don't know if they were doing those one and the same, or they two separate grants.
There were two separate grants,
Two
so
separate grants, yes.
Yeah,
I think, is the wildland one closed now?
the Wildland one is closed. I did discuss it with the MNRF. This is a grant
Yeah.
that comes up every year. I did speak with a couple other fire chiefs as well at the mutual aid. A lot of them don't go for it. It's more because we already have an agreement with the MNR about the wildland protection. We already kind of have a wildland protection plan in place. This funding is more for a municipality that doesn't have a wildland protection plan in place. And
Yeah, I think we talked about this before.
Yeah.
A little bit,
Yeah.
so,
so it was kind of like a not really pertain to us. If we did want to explore, it is a recurring grant.
yeah, so we
We
did
did
not
that
apply,
very clear.
yeah, we can look at it next year.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. And then was there a CMC grant?
There's a CEP, yeah,
Or,
there's a emergency
emergency
management
management,
grant,
yeah.
and that gets into the communications piece, and did you want me to talk to that now, or?
Is that
So-
the CGIS stuff?
No.
No, something different.
So this is Emergency Management Ontario as last year they had a grant where they're equipping municipalities and agencies with emergency management response capabilities. It's $50,000, up to $50,000, and part of what I was proposing, and I don't have it here tonight because I still got to talk to we still got homework to do. I'll
Yeah.
just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And but the essence of it is we have an opportunity to really bolster our communications for the EOC and the interactivity between the first responders, the incident command, and the EOC director, and the group that's sitting in this office. So looking at the radio systems, we've got Public Works who have a channel and they work all their stuff, but they become very important to an emergency response, right? They're fixing ditches, they're digging stuff out. They're the heavy movers, if you will. And then you guys are on scene for whatever you're on scene for. And the EOC is as you found out in IMS, the EOC is sort of the coordinator and the facilitator of all those activities out in the field. If you need something, you call into the EOC. If Public Works has to communicate with fire, you can do it through the EOC. And to that end, there's really no common radio channel or quick way to do that. So one of the proposals I have is introducing a radio base station, because communications here are bad. There's a radio here, but the proposal would see two base stations set up with antennas, with one for fire, one for Public Works, and the EOC would be the coordinating interface between them. So if you needed something from Public Works, you coordinate it through here and vice versa. And this thing sits here. It's not only used. It's only used in an emergency. It keeps the two entities separate and apart, day-to-day operations. But in an emergency, it gives us the opportunity to do that. The other funding that we may be, and I didn't look at the total value of that quote. I apologize for that, but
bolstering our radios, both in fire and public works, so we can buy more radios. You know, so you can't have too many radios.
No.
The other thing is we would look at, Emergency Management Ontario comes equipped with their remote communication center, and they have a radio frequency that everybody can jump on. So we've got to figure out how we're going to do that as well. So I don't know if that can be done through the existing radios, or is there something else we can do there, but I don't know what that looks like, but.
Is that the Joint Emergency Management system? The
Uh,
GEMS?
No, this is new. They roll in here and they'll give you a cell phone, they'll give you radio, they'll give
It's
you.
Bernie, yeah,
Yes,
it's
It's
Bernie.
Bernie,
Yeah.
yeah, that is absolutely
Yeah.
Bernie, so, but they have, the trucks are now,
Yeah.
Grant Murphy was driving one and he rolls in here, he turns it on and we can log in, we can have cell phone service, even if all the cell phone towers go down, it gives us a coverage with cell response, so it's kind of a neat system. But that's not part of the money, what ours was sort of focused on the radio communication, because if in fact we do lose cell and we don't have those guys here, radio is the last resort, and it's probably the most reliable too in terms of what's going on in the field, so. That's what I was kind of focusing on for that grant, and hopefully we can spend the whole 50 grand.
Yeah.
and it's updating some of our radios as well,
It
more of digital capabilities
Well,
in the future.
yeah, all the, I think, I forget the model number, but the radios we have now are analog on both sides. But they're digital ready. So, and if they're not, we can add more radios to it that are digital ready. And over a couple of years, they can turn on the digital feature of it. The digital phones don't give you any more range, but they give you more clarity in the fringes. So and then, but when you're out of range on both radios, but where you get a lot of static when you're on the edge of something, the digital radio cleans that up quite a bit and just more clarity. But, and so over time, we'd be able to move to a digital system and, start with 3 radios in each group or 2 radios in one group, wherever we need the radios. But I think we should max out the grant on the 2 base stations and the number of radios that we can buy.
Can you use it for other things? Like we need an evacuation plan too, right? So that we could be using equipment that we would need for an evacuation plan. We would need cots and blankets, things like that for an evacuation plan.
We will not need cots and blankets for an
Well, it
evacuation.
depends on what our evacuation plan looks like.
I've got a meeting with Red Cross this week coming up, and the cots and blankets are, we have a reception center, we don't have an evacuation center. We cannot put cots and blankets in our community center, so we just don't have facilities, we don't have showers.
But we don't have a plan. Do we have a plan? Do we actually have a plan?
Well, we've spoken to, Alan is working, because we're working on a regional training plan,
Yes,
right? So that
yes.
we all do the training exercise together.
Yes.
I talked to, in our regional CIO meetings, we've talked to, because everyone has the same with evacuation plans.
Yeah.
So we can't have them in our own community, what do we do if the emergency is and we have to evacuate? So we have discussed, going with Callender or East Ferris as the evacuation center. Generally speaking, we've talked about it at, the regional CIO meetings, but we haven't drilled down on what exactly that looks like to get an agreement in place.
Okay,
We're waiting, we're gonna meet with Alan, we'll meet with Red Cross,
right.
figure out exactly where our gaps are, what we need, and then we can start creating that
And-
evacuation plan.
We ran into this trouble as well, because the contract that you have, let's say with Red Cross. So they will say, oh yeah, we've got 500 cots, so that 500 cots is in my plan, but it's also in East Ferris plan, and it's also, so do they have 1,500 cots, or do they have 500 that they've promised to 3 different places, right?
I've actually had to use Red Cross in an evacuation or in a shelter, and Red Cross also, because we had the agreement, Red Cross came in, but we also had the military come in. So they were able to help get the military in.
Yeah, so I've had military and Red
Yeah.
Cross do ours, so Red Cross, the good thing about Red Cross is they will do R&I, registration and inquiry, so
Yes.
that is like a big thing that they will do for you. And then they do family reunification as well, so.
So a direct answer to your question, no, we do not have.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
don't need,
And we are approaching it from a regional basis, which
Yeah,
was
which is good.
it includes all the things that you mentioned, like
Yeah.
there's Red Cross is looking at us as a region, not
Yeah.
one at a time. And they're very versed in sort of supporting a broader base, and
Yeah.
they have their focuses as well. So I think, and you heard that session we went to,
Yeah.
that Bernie's really
Oh, yeah.
pushing the regional approach.
Mhm.
And that really, you know, like Calvin is looking at using the provincial park. They have a big center there, and they got some space. We've got a little bit of space. And so when you look at regionally, we've got 4 or 5 spaces where we can house people or at least receive people.
Yeah,
And we gotta make sure that we, you know, the evacuation will depend on the crime or
Yeah.
the emergency.
well,
So
it will, but there are components that are consistent
Yep,
to
yep.
every single one.
Are we ready?
Yeah,
And-
yeah,
and,
yeah. So-
We're working on getting ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, all right, so now the CGIS.
CGIS, so we're gonna pull up
Do the grant for a moment.
Sure.
When's the due date for the
at the end of the
grant?
month.
Oh,
October 31st?
Yeah, we should have the proposal by the end of this week.
Okay.
No pressure on.
yeah.
For reference for the same day.
Yeah. Okay,
Motion to accept that we're gonna do a grant for,
do we need?
and should at least a council would find to commit money.
to go for it? Writing a motion.
I don't know dollar amounts.
Can
So
we say-
technically, when we go to do a
Yeah.
grant, the grant should be brought to council prior to application, so the council has an idea of what we're applying for. And the cost values, so that when we're applying for it, that they can commit to it.
So can we say up to 50,000?
Yeah, and is it 100% 50,000?
50's max.
Is the max?
And we don't have, there's no contribution from the municipality?
Well, no,
Okay.
not for the first 50, and if we go over the 50, obviously we're on the hook
Yeah,
for
yeah,
whatever.
whatever.
Okay, that's, I'm gonna write my resolution.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
So like if it's, say it's 55,000.
Yeah,
and
we're on the
it'll
hook for
buy-
5.
We're on. the hook.
yeah, yeah. Do we have to provide quotes
We have.
with the grant? Oh, you've got the quotes, okay, excellent.
And it's just a matter of what configuration we want to agree on in terms of what we pull the trigger on. But I'll definitely need to sit down with you guys once this week. We'll have a conversation. We'll have a conversation. Yeah, it's gotta work, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, CGIS, Emergency Response Pilot Proposal. I thought I'd introduce this as a little way of a background. It's probably a bigger, it's certainly bigger than we really need right now, but sort of the essence of the presentation is, and very much aligned with fire queue and data management. We're only as good as the data we can retain, right? So we either rely on firefighters' memories or we rely on data that we put into a system that is easily retrieved. And if you can't retrieve it easily, then it's kind of useless as well. So what CGIS does, it gives us a graphical interface and it ties data to locations, it ties data to spots, it ties data to people and houses in our community. So you'd be able to look at that map and pull up a layer and see where all your vulnerable people are. You see where all your who's got propane and stuff like that. And of course that requires a process to gather the data over time. So you need to start somewhere. And that's what this proposal is. It's advocating that we start someplace. Geographic information. Oh, I got the thing. Yeah. Not used to. I'm a terrible multicast. That's okay. Geographic information systems can be incredibly valuable responder, providing spatial data analysis tools. So if you know what you're going into, you're going to be much more effective. You're going to be able to. It saves lives and performance overall gets better. Leveraging GIS, first responders can enhance their efficiency, improve decision making. You know what you're going into before you get there to some degree, depending on the data that you have. And some key ways that GIS can help do that. So situational awareness is real-time mapping. Shows the location of incidents, responders, resources, but you guys have that system, right? So this is the marriage of the graphical interface and systems that you already have in place. And the real trick to this is getting the two to work together. So some data is better off in CGIS and some data is better off in the apps that you have, right? And figuring out which ones those are. Improved navigation and routing. And you know, this was obviously based on a bigger community, a larger city. But you know, GIS can calculate the fastest routes, dynamic updates. But really what it does and what we take away from this slide is that it gives you better decision making, whether it's navigation, what you need to take with you, what you're going to be experienced. So it's that data laid over mapping.
And it's, like you said, it's in real time, right, Alan? So if a street is, you cannot trespass a street, you can actually put it on there to tell your fire crew, don't go down this street, you can go someplace else. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about if we have a road that's closed off for maintenance.
Yeah.
And you know, and this is in conjunction with dispatch but you look at that and you say, I can't get down that road.
Yeah.
You'll know that before you get there.
Yeah.
It'll be part of your response, right? You'll look at it, you'll prepare it, say, and for the most part in a small community, you kind of already know that. But as we grow and things get more complicated and we get a different demographic in our population, it's good to know that it's better to know before than getting to the ditch and finding out you can't get through.
Yeah.
Risk assessment and planning, and this is where the big value comes in terms of we're doing the community risk assessment, and we do that an annual review and a 5-year rewrite. But the more data we can get in our CGIS system, the easier that exercise becomes, because now, you know, you're looking at demographics. So there's a ton of municipal information that's already in CGIS, the addresses, the size of the thing, where it is, and so on. So that data, and if we add emergency data on top of that as a layer, that makes our risk assessment so much easier to do. We're not reinventing the wheel and remining it, some stuff like that. So hazard mapping, like, you know, there's on the CGIS, there's areas where the high fire zones are from the Ministry of Natural Resources. That's on the map already, right? So if you know that in summertime, so your wildland fire planning, you know, if you're in a high hazard zone or something lower, you know, it just helps you prepare that much better. The post-incident review, GIS can, so when you put all this data together at the end of the day and you're sitting there and you're doing the debrief or the hot wash, now, you know, you're doing that in light of the previous incident. So you can see it, you can call it up on CGIS, you can add the new data to it. Does this make sense? Are we seeing trends? So what it really enhances your hot wash and your experience that you had at site. So now you can it just builds and builds and builds as your database becomes more populated with information.
Do you do hot washes? You do a hot wash? You know what a hot wash is?
No.
A hot wash is a debrief that happens immediately after an event. You do it after an exercise. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to capture immediate responses and reactions from people. So what went well? What didn't go well? Where can we improve? And then you normally would have a debrief after, a few weeks after the event as well. So then people can kind of slow down and really think, and then you have another debrief with the same questions. And then usually there's recommendations that come out of that, and then you would implement those recommendations. This Saturday for your, I think it's the checkup from the neck up that you're going to, you're gonna hear about stuff like this, I think. So, because a lot of it has to do with like psychosocial and, you know, ensuring that your people are okay.
Yeah, no.
So,
We
yeah.
do debriefs after calls.
Yeah.
We do roundtable exercises.
Excellent.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
that's what it
you
is.
do.
That's what it is.
Hot
So you
wash.
did
it.
Yeah.
Different name, sorry.
Yeah. Excellent. I knew you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did, we talked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Community engagement, education, public information, public maps, ongoing incidents, preparedness campaign, GIS. So all your fire inspections, all your smoke detectors, put it on the map, and you can see where you've been, where the issues are, where you've had non-compliance, if you will. So as you get into talking with people and you've gone to that house 3 times and there's non-compliance there 3 times, you might want to put that in the GIS database, right? So now you know that that house doesn't have smoke detectors, and so I mean, that's sort of the negative case, but it also reinforced the fact that all these houses in the village proper do have smoke detectors, and you visited them, and it'll give you the date that you visited them, and so without, you know, it saves you a lot of time, and you'll have to put it in the system for sure. But when you go to look at, say, where was I last year? What did I do last year? You pull up the map and there it is. I'm gonna do this section.
Is this a system that's already there, or is this something add on to GIS?
It's already there, that's a good question. You can just hold it for 1 second.
I know that we just have to call $200 to put something on, but so for the smoke alarm thing, it's if someone, when you're going out and you have a tablet, you can have an Excel spreadsheet. That would have everybody's address on it, right? So where you're going with the roll number. And then when you're at that house, you have a checklist of things that you have to do. Drop down boxes on that Excel sheet. You just go yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Then when you're done it for the, you know, for the month, we take that spreadsheet, send it off to our GIS company. They upload it. It just gets populated.
Who is our GIS company?
CGIS at Perth.
Out of, sorry?
Perth.
Okay, yes, I've
Yeah.
dealt with them. I dealt with them through the town battle.
Yeah.
I've done lots of that stuff with, the one gentleman there.
Yeah, Trent or Brandon.
We used Sean
Mm.
and Brandon, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
They're a great system, and it is just as easy as just doing it, right?
Yeah, so what this allows us to do, it integrates both fire and emergency management in terms of what responses we're getting and how the 2 systems integrate, like they are one system, first responders and our plan to protect things. And so the information around that, you know, becomes a community based approach. You ready for the big reveal? Not yet. That integration, so, and I guess this is what you talked to this slide, so we can integrate data from various sources. It can come from spreadsheets, it can come from, you know, the reports that you get. There might be some manual transfer, but if we get it into a format that can be easily uploaded, we can do that too. So there's a lot of ways to minimize the labor that's required to get information into the system. Now the big reveal. So the adopt the fire response layer in CGIS to populate fire department calls. So there's already a layer there, and it's already got, so what I'm proposing is we do this just for fire calls for a year to try it out, see how easy it is to work with the system. We could populate we got 5 years, take the last 5 years that we have on our community risk assessment, populate it with a little bit of history to give us a sense of, you know, 1 year is not going to tell us much, but if we go back and do a little bit of effort and put the last 5 years in, we'll start to see trends, maybe. We'll start to see how this works, start to see if it's useful or not, and that's part of the pilot. Identify and prepare a process flow that adds new data to it. So how does the data get there? And those are sort of the devils in the details when you have a system like that. And is it more work than it's worth? But that's what we want to experiment with over a 12-month period. See, does this make sense? At the end of the day, it's not worth it, or it's really worth it. We evaluate the effectiveness after 12 months, make recommendations for future expansion of layers and data gathering. So, you know, if this goes really well, then we get into fire smoke detectors, and we get into inspections, and we get into other issues, and we get into vulnerable people in the community, and you know, who has propane and who has oil, and all those things. And you know, there's been surveys done in the past, and we'd have to look at ways to gather that information. But I think, you know, there's SurveyMonkey. There's a lot of ways to get information that what we didn't have access to in the past. And I think, you know, the virtual world makes it a lot easier to do that. And then at the end of the year, at the end of 12 months, we make recommendations on future expansion and new layers. And you know, with the end goal of making the community risk assessment a living document. And this is something that we shouldn't just put on a shelf and go back to it 12 months or 5 years. It should be something that, oh, it's time to update the CRA, and you'll go click and it's done, right? And I think so. Making this using tools like this make this, the condition risk assessment a living document, and it really improves the effectiveness of our first responders and the emergency management program. So that's my presentation.
Excellent. Thank you. You just get Steve back.
Yeah.
You have any questions, Steve, or?
No, yeah, like I say, I think it'll be a lot of work to kind of get it up and going, but I think it could be a valuable tool for sure.
Okay, so I think we wanted to talk about, a new policy or updating our, uniform policy.
Yeah, so I emailed everybody on Friday. So we got 2 complaints, I guess, from community members. I sent out an email. I didn't get a response, and then I sent out a different email a couple of days later because I think some of our emails aren't maybe updated either for new positions now. And that was just about facial hair on our team. So I got a couple of responses from Dave. Unfortunately, this is kind of the stuff that as a counselor we deal with on a regular basis. So stuff that we bring forward to you guys isn't necessarily always things that we're thinking of. It's stuff that's being brought to our attention that we're bringing up to you. So I guess we need to adopt a uniform policy and a facial hair policy.
So I'm sure there's probably examples maybe of that from other, so I, like, you go to the highest standard, right? The NFPA standard, so
Yeah,
I think we probably just need a more specific.
We do have a standard operating procedure that states that when you don and doff an SCBA, in order to don an SCBA, that you have to follow the NFPA standard and the workplace standards, which entails that you have to have clean shaving and you have to have a fit test
And how often do we do a fit test?
yearly.
Okay, so they are yearly, but I think, one of the concerns was that you can do the fit test and then you have facial hair after that, right? So how do we, ensure that people are ready to respond, I guess, with
Well, it's-
proper?
It's like I said, it's already a standard operating procedure. It would just be coming down to making sure people are doing it or spec and work and
Yeah, okay.
yes.
But we don't have an actual policy.
Do like,
Is it for fit test?
no,
Or is it-
it's our fire department standard operating procedures stating about.
Yeah, you have an SOP, but we
Yeah.
don't,
But there's more than one SOP.
yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah,
So is the SOP for fit test?
no,
or
the
is-
SOPs were. It's specifically for donning an SCBA,
Oh,
and within that SOP states the instruction that you have to follow an NFPA standards, you have to have a current fit test.
okay. So we don't have a
SCBA.
policy that
No.
says that in order to be on the fire department, you must be able to be fit tested. And I think that comes down to the establishing bylaw when it goes into the roles and responsibilities and stuff in there too, right?
Yeah.
On each category, because there's lots of different roles and responsibilities where some people are on the fire department, but they don't necessarily don the
That's right.
the
Yeah,
SCBA's. So how do we like, is that just in the roles and responsibilities? Is this, so anyone who does fight a fire?
Yeah.
And I would think that the leadership team on the fire department would,
Yes.
right, like you would come out fighting fires. So then there would be policies on the uniform and what that looks like, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we're looking for a policy. I think so I think it should be in the SOPs or the SOGs, but I think we need an actual policy as well for uniforms and for facial hair.
Okay.
So, but I think that there's probably a few examples that other departments
Yeah.
have that we can, like,
We'll
you
look
know,
at that.
why
Yeah,
rewrite
this
the
is not
wheel, right?
unique to
Yeah,
Fonthill, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
So we don't wanna,
Lots of fire departments have
Yeah.
these issues.
so if we can maybe get a draft of that.
Maybe Santana and the fire chief can work on that? You guys work on drafting that up.
Yep.
with Santana?
Yep.
Okay, anything else?
I think maybe at the next meeting, I don't know if say Alconco is looking at coming to the next meeting, but she had a list of kind of outstanding stuff that she sent out the last email, I believe. Maybe that might be a good opportunity to just kind of go through them step by step, just to kind of see where we're at on some of the stuff that was outstanding. I think a lot of it is probably already completed by the department and just not been transferred over to the CAO, or maybe stuff maybe that only needs small changes to be finalized as well, just to try and get some of that stuff off the books.
Be good if we could get the committee as well.
Okay,
Transparency.
perfect, yep.
We can hash it out on the 4th and then we can make sure what we have
The
to do.
update,
And we
and
have to
then-
update.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Dave, Josh?
Nope.
No, you're good, thank you.
Is there a resolution that we're going to start a pilot project, or are we just saying, yes, we're going to do it and do it as per Alan's?
Like as part of his work plan, maybe, or?
Yeah, well, it won't just be Alan's.
No, 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 well, it is.
Sorry, Alan. it's
Yeah,
all
well,
yours.
I had no
Yeah.
better use for my spare time.
Yeah. So it's a,
Just so it's something that we can formally say, yes, we've done it, or
Yeah.
making that decision in every.
so do you want that to go to council?
We don't necessarily need it to go to council, but.
I think it might be
certainly
nice
can.
to report, because it's a program, right? So
Yeah.
programs are different from projects because programs are ongoing, right? Like this is gonna be a program now that lives in Bondfield, which is
For
a
at
pretty,
least 12 months, yeah.
yeah, which is a pretty cool, no, you just told me that it's ongoing in the next 5 years. When the CRA comes back, we're gonna press a button.
I'm hoping it works.
Yeah, so we can do a program, so I think that is excellent. GIS and emergency response pilot project. We're actually using the full hour
Yeah, and that's,
for our committee. Oh, yeah, you guys have to go. We're almost done. I'll do this really quick and then.
you made a plan before.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Last week, we just gave them like 3 now.
So do these guys have to move it in second?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so. Move in second. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we have 2 motions going forward, moved by Alan, seconded by Dave, that the Emergency Services Committee recommends to council to apply to the Emergency Management Preparedness Funding for upgrades to the township's emergency communication systems for the fire department, public works, and the Emergency Operations Center up to a maximum of 50,000. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Dave, seconded by Alan, that the Emergency Services Committee recommends to council to initiate a pilot program to report emergency response information into the GIS system to be reevaluated after 12 months. All in favor? Carried. Yay. Okay, moved by Alan, seconded by Josh, that the meeting be adjourned at 7:11. All in favor? Yay. Carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Steve.